Listen here. Most men think they're in control. But if your emotions control your reactions, let me tell you something. You're not in control of anything. Not your words, not your decisions, not your relationships, and certainly not your future. Here is the truth that many of those people out there talking about men won't tell you. Emotional discipline isn't something you're born with. That's okay. It is something, however, that you build. But today, I'm going to show you exactly why most men struggle with it. I'm also going to show how to start fixing it immediately. This is Walk With Me, and this is the code. Survivors, my people, my allies, and hey, to all of you who are here because you want to understand more. I'm pumped. Last week, we did our first episode of the code, and I was like, guys, I'm going to do this every 2 to 3 weeks. And then by Tuesday, I was like, shit, this is all I want to talk about right now. So yes, I did 2 episodes of the code in a row, back to back, and I apologize. So welcome back to Walk With Me. This is the code. This is where we stop talking about what sounds good, what may look good from the outside looking in, and we start building what actually works. By the end of this episode, this second installation of the code, I would like you guys to understand what emotional discipline actually is. I want you to also understand why most men lack it. Guilty. I lacked it for a very long time. But let's figure out why. And then my hopes is that you'll actually know how to begin controlling those reactions in real time across your entire life, guys. All right. So we're not minimizing this into any particular aspect. This is for everything. This benefits every aspect of your life. Last time we did the code, which was only last week, we talked about accountability. In the future, we're going to dive deeper into accountability because I don't think it's a one episode type of conversation. None of these are. We're going to dive deep into all of these. But we introduced accountability. We introduced taking ownership, having no excuses. But today we're going to build that one skill that makes accountability possible, or at the very least, makes it a little bit easier, okay? The code of the day, gentlemen, and all the ladies that are listening to kind of teach up your man once in a while, today is what emotional discipline actually is. So before we define it clearly, I do want to mention some comments that I got from some of my videos when I do talk about accountability and when I do talk about emotional discipline, because this isn't something that I just started talking. And one of the comments, or some of the comments that I continuously get, is talking about how men that they know or a man in their life doesn't quite have that emotional discipline or doesn't know how to really deal with emotions, whether it's reciprocating them from your partner or just showing them, period. So I want you all to know that at no point am I ever going to say, fuck that dude, move on with life. You know what I mean? Because I do want to give an opportunity for men who are willing to make that conscious decision that maybe some of these actions aren't in the benefit of not only our relationship, but myself, ourselves as a man. So we are going to continue to work on those. Are there some people out there that are going to refuse this particular type of knowledge? It is what it is, yes. Hopefully you can start understanding by just listening to some of the things that are healthy to be able to recognize when you're in a conversation or starting a relationship with somebody who doesn't have that emotional discipline. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Let's define this clearly. Emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is your ability to feel everything and still choose your response. Remember that statement, to still choose your response. Choosing your response versus reacting, two completely different things. But I also want to talk about how we do not suppress it. We do not ignore it. We do not pretend you're fine. Control it. Because there is a difference between feeling something and being controlled by it. So let's get right into it. I love this subject because it's one of the things that most dudes out there preaching alpha masculinity, they don't talk about this because they're so scared to, because it makes them feel feminine, which is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. The whole word femininity or feminism is scares the shit out of a lot of people. It really does. And I'm here to tell you, you ain't got to be scared of that. It's something that's not faux pas. Maybe it used to be, and it was. I was raised in that environment where it was, okay? But for the love of Pete, grow the hell up, okay? This is good shit right here. That's why I love talking about it. Let's get to it. Most men were never taught this. I was never taught this growing up. I was in a very machismo, men don't cry type of shit, right? That's what we were taught. We have to man up, right? We have to push it down. Get rid of that feeling. Here's the problem with that I want to make very clear. That doesn't remove emotion. When you tell someone not to cry, when you tell somebody to man up, when you tell somebody to push it away or push it down, your body's reaction to that isn't just, oh, well, shit it out. Next time you go shit or piss, we'll piss out that emotion. It's not how that works, okay? You just repress it. Here's the part that I really want you to hear. Throughout these episodes, this is research-backed shit, okay? I'm not speaking out of my ass, and I'm certainly not speaking only from experience. Studies in psychology, particularly around something called normative male alexithymia, it's spelled out. I'm going to put it on so you know that word. You don't have to remember that word. It's a big-ass word. Anyways, studies in that show that many men are actually conditioned from a young age to struggle identifying and expressing emotions. Not because they don't feel, but because we were never taught how to process what they feel. Why not? What could possibly stop us from learning that? Culture did. Culture made it illegal or faux pas-ish for men to learn about how to regulate their emotions. It's not your fault you didn't learn it, but it is your fault that you don't learn it. I hope that makes sense. Because when you suppress emotion, instead of processing it, just like anything else, it doesn't disappear. That emotion that you suppress begins to build. Research in emotional regulation, behavioral psychology shows that suppressed emotions often resurface in, write this down, anger, irritability, right? Or impulsive reactions. No freaking way. And don't tell me you've never seen any of those types of reactions from a man, especially in a situation that produces a very high emotional reaction. That's why lots of men don't, and this is in air quotes, look emotional until they fucking explode. That's it. Because that explosion is a result of suppressing your emotions over and over again. It builds. There's also strong data showing that men who lack emotional regulation skills are more likely to have conflict in relationships. Isn't this what we're talking about, David? This is the whole freaking point here. But that's not all. But wait, it gets worse. More likely to struggle with stress and mental health. What are we seeing all across social media now about men's mental health more so than ever? And more likely to react instead of respond under pressure. You guys, a lot of you out there watch the Manosphere, Under the Manosphere thing on Netflix, right? How did these dudes react when they were under any type of pressure? They fucking lost it, man. It was attack against them. They were being attacked. They were being asked simple-ass questions. Questions for men who have emotional regulation would have been no problem to answer. Calmly, without any feeling of pressure. But I digress. This isn't a personality flaw. This is a training gap. You weren't taught emotional discipline, so you default to reaction. And now here is the shift, because it is important that we have shifts. It is important that once we recognize something, that we shift it. Just because you weren't taught it, I said this earlier, by the way, don't tell anybody, doesn't mean you don't have to learn it. That's it. You can't just use excuse over excuse over excuse. What did we talk about last time? Accountability. Fine, you didn't learn it. Just like anything else in life, you didn't learn it at some point, or you didn't know how to do it at some point. Now that you know it actually exists and that it is important for you to be a healthy person in society, it's time to fucking learn it. That's it. Period. Yes? Because the moment you start learning how to process and regulate your emotions, you stop being controlled by them. If for no other reason, we know how men do not like being controlled, and yet we allow our emotions to control us because we refuse to learn how to control them. No more. Gentlemen, no fucking more. Okay, let me give you a real world example. If you're in an argument with somebody and you feel disrespected, whether it's a friend, a peer, a colleague, a significant other, without discipline, you snap, you escalate. You say something that, my friends, by now you should have learned you cannot take back. Again, this isn't me preaching to y'all. We are walking this together. Many moons ago, that was me. And it took a strong woman to say, that's unacceptable. But it took me being man enough to say, you're right. How do I fix this? Because with discipline, you pause. You respond, not react. The one difference in that aspect, the pausing, which leads to you responding instead of reacting, changes the entire outcome of that argument, of that conversation, or of that disagreement. The outcome in its entirety completely changed. I am telling you this because I've seen it firsthand. I've been on both sides of that aisle. And I like that side of the aisle where the end game or the outcome is clear, respectful, beneficial, and efficient. Here's another example. Real world. Your boss gives you some type of feedback, something you can improve on, something he or she sees that they want to tell you you can be better at. Without discipline, you get defensive. You shut down. You blame. Do you know who does that in my life right now? My 14-year-old daughter. Do you know why she does that right now? Because she's a 14-year-old child. Is that what we're going to compare ourselves to? The level of emotional intelligence of a 14-year-old versus a grown-ass person? Her excuse is she's 14 years old. She's still learning this stuff. And she's damn good at getting defensive, at shutting down, at blaming all her problems on her dad. That's for a different episode. We're moving on. With discipline, you listen, you process, and you adjust. The most important thing that you'll begin to learn is that it is not a personal attack to you. The feedback that you're receiving is because they actually give a damn. Do you think somebody who does not give a fuck about you is going to give you feedback that may improve who you are as a person, as a worker, as a significant other, anything like that? No. You realize that this is not a personal attack because you listened, you processed it, you adjusted the things because you took accountability. Hello? One path stalls your career. The other continues to build it. That's all this is. Growth. We're building something here, men. Yes? Ladies in the back listening, do you agree? Hell yeah. Let's go. Let's get super real here. There's a narrative out there that says being emotional is weak, is not for men, it's for girls. Wrong. The difference between emotions when it comes to men and women are this. The majority of women know how to regulate their emotions because it's always been okay for women to have emotions. Men do not. But the emotions, they're all there. Emotions are not sex specific, gender specific. They're not. They're emotions. If you are a human being, you have emotions. Congratulations. Unless you're a psychopath, we're moving on. Being controlled by your emotions is actually what is weak. There's nothing strong about that. Losing control, reacting impulsively, saying whatever you feel in the moment, cool, dude. So cool. Cool. That's not dominance. That's instability. Period. Let's take this out of opinion form just for a second, okay? So that you guys don't think that I'm just like talking out of my ass. Let's put it into reality. Emotional discipline isn't just a nice trait to have. Oh, he's nice. Oh, she's nice. It's actually one of the strongest predictors of performance across almost every aspect and area of your life. Research in psychology, especially in emotional intelligence and self-regulation, consistently shows that individuals with high emotional regulation perform better under pressure, make more consistent decisions, build stronger, much more stable relationships, and actually they're significantly more effective in leadership roles. Hello? Let's break that down. Studies in performance psychology shows that people who can regulate their emotions under stress don't just stay calm, they perform better. Gentlemen, I'm going to speak to you like a dude for 1 second. I coached football for about 10 years. I love football. I adore the sport. We consistently honor, respect, and talk about those players that under the highest possible pressure in the game, they're locked in, they're calm, they're taking everything in, they understand the assignment. And that is why they can drive that team down with less than a minute left in the game, no timeouts, needing to get in the end zone. Those are the people that we look for. We can do that. We should do that because when your emotions are controlled, your thinking stays clear. Your reactions stay intentional. Your decisions, they stay aligned. You know and understand the assignment. That's why elite athletes, military operators, and high-level executives all train, you're never going to believe this, emotional regulation. Not because it sounds good, not because it's something you have to do. It's required. It's because it works. So let's break that down. Decision making. Neuroscience shows that when you react emotionally without regulation, your brain shifts into survival mode. That's not the mode you want to be in when you're having to make decisions, especially super important ones. That's your amygdala taking over. What is an amygdala? It's a mass in your brain associated with emotional processes. And when that happens, you make impulsive decisions, short-term choices, emotionally driven reactions. But when you regulate your emotions, you bring your prefrontal cortex back online. Your prefrontal cortex, that's where logic, planning, long-term thinking is housed. That's where it actually happens. Translation? For the lay I don't understand any of these words. Guys, please don't think that I'm a scientist, because I'm not. I read this shit. I have to look up how to pronounce the words. It's fun. Try it sometimes. But I looked up the translation of what all this means. In lay, emotionally disciplined literally changes the quality of your decisions. Your decisions, gentlemen, that is strength. That is life changing. So that's decision making. How about in relationships? Research and emotional intelligence consistently show that people with higher emotional regulation communicate more effectively. Boom. That right there should sell you. That alone should make you go, I'm in, let's go. What do I got to learn about this? What do I look up? Imagine that ability to communicate with your significant other, your best friends, in a manner that is effective, guys. Productive. It also shows that you are able to resolve conflict better, quicker. Dudes, you guys don't like fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. Yeah, then learn how to communicate more effectively. Learn how to gain higher emotional regulation. I'm solving all your problems here. I'm not, but it's such a difference in your day to day. Here's one that I love the most. People with higher emotional regulation build deeper trust. Why, you ask? Because you don't escalate every damn situation. You respond. And that creates stability. Now, I want you to come in closer and listen to this. You don't react to everything. There are going to be situations in your life that you escalate, that you must escalate for whatever reason. But the amount of those situations are minimized to life-threatening or to a situation where you feel like you have to protect. And even those situations become less of you freaking out and more of you understanding what needs to be done at that time. Stability, gentlemen, stability. What about leadership and respect? Leadership studies, especially in organizational psychology, show that emotional control is one of the top traits of effective leaders. Effective leaders. Not all leaders are effective. But that's the top trait, not dominance, not loudness, control. Yes, most of us, depending on what age you are, we know what control is. Ms. Jackson taught us about it. Okay? Because people don't follow chaos. Let me rephrase. Most people don't follow chaos. They like to follow consistency. I know you like that. How about your long-term success? Here's the part where most people miss because long-term success isn't built on motivation. God, I love motivation. You scroll through TikTok, there's a lot of motivation. That shit's awesome. It feels good. It feels good right then and there. It's not long-term. Long-term success is built on consistent behavior over time. If you've heard me before, you've heard me say, we have to do things over and over and over again. We have to retrain our nervous system. Consistency. What about consistency? It is required. It is required in emotional discipline. Because if your emotions change your actions every day, you'll never build anything stable. That is required. So let's make all this as simple as possible. This is not about being less emotional. This is about being more in control. Because when you, gentlemen, are in control of your emotions, you control your reactions. And when you control your reactions, you control your outcomes. This isn't just mindset. This is performance. And look, if your idea of strength is I say whatever I feel, whenever I feel it, bro, you're not strong. You're fucking predictable. It's predictable. So let's talk about this in the whole life impact. Overall, let's connect everything that we just talked about. Without emotional discipline, your relationships suffer, your career can stall, your reputation weak as hell, your decision-making gets sloppy. On the flip side, when you do start learning about emotional discipline and you start working on it over and over again, you become consistent, you become trusted, you become respected, and that makes you dangerous in the best fucking way because you're in control. That's some scary shit. That's dangerous. I know you agree. And if you don't, you don't. I get it. Let me ask you something honestly, though. Do your emotions control your reactions or do you? Because if you don't control your reactions, someone else will. And that's a lack of power. That is vulnerability. Because emotional discipline isn't something you understand. It's something you practice in real time. Here's how it actually starts. Number one, awareness. Catch it as it happens. Gentlemen, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to learn this overnight. I can't give you this speech and you turn around and go, I got this. You have to catch every single time it happens. Most men actually don't struggle with discipline first. They struggle with awareness. Because if you don't catch the emotion when it shows up, you're already reacting before you realize it. Awareness looks like this. You feel your chest tighten, your tone changes, your patience drops, right? You feel the urge to respond. I got to say something right now. I got to say something right now. That moment right there, that's the moment most of us miss. And that's the moment that matters the most. Because once you can notice the shift in real time, you create space. And space, my friends, is where control begins. Once you get to that part, awareness, number one, you get to number two, which is simply pausing. You create separation from the reaction. This is where strength actually shows up because anyone can react. That shit is easy. I perfected it for a long period of my life. Just react. The reactions weren't perfect, but me react. Very few people can just pause. And I'm not talking about some long dramatic reset like you see in the movies, I'm talking about one breath, 3 to 5 seconds, one moment of silence while you process. That pause does something powerful. It actually interrupts the automatic reaction. It gives your brain time to move out of survival mode, right? And back into control. Without the pause, you're just running in patterns. But with the pause, you're making a choice. And that is our segue to number 3. You choose. Respond with intention, not emotion. This is where the discipline begins to get built because now you have a decision to make. Not what do I feel like doing right now, but what response actually moves my life forward. That's a different question. Because sometimes the response that feels good in the moment is the one that costs you later. And it costs, at times, a lot. So choosing now begins to look like holding your tone instead of raising it. Fellas, have you ever been in an argument with somebody and you feel yourself getting heated and that person is just calm, tone is chill? That's a person who has emotional intelligence. He is in control. Okay, so holding your tone instead of raising it, listening instead of interrupting. What does that allow us to do? Process what's going on. Why are they upset? Why are we having a discussion? What are their feelings? It allows us to process information and then maybe stepping away instead of escalating. Maybe you're in a situation that is hopeless. There is no give from either side. You walk away. That's not weakness, my friends. That's control. And then it takes you to the 4th step, which is execute. Follow through with the right action. Because sometimes people can break at this step because you know what to do, but you don't do it. And discipline isn't built in what you know. It's built in what you execute. So this part is where you follow through on the calmer response, stick to your decision, hold your standard, even when it's uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, It's uncomfortable at first. It doesn't feel natural, but that's because you're breaking a pattern. And that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So let's bring it all together here. This is emotional discipline, not suppressing. You're not pretending. You're certainly not avoiding. You're controlling, you're choosing, and then you execute. That is strength. You don't become disciplined when things are easy. You become disciplined in the moments you want to react and choose not to. I love this. That is discipline, my friends. Okay, this week we've got a challenge. And what I'd like for you to do, if you so decide to, is for the next 7 days, you're going to track your reactions again. I've been doing this leading up to this recording. And even to this day, I am feeling certain aspects that I don't have enough of control over that I'm happy with it. So let's do this together. We're going to track our reactions like we did last week, but this time we're focusing on control. Every time you feel anger or frustration, defensiveness, annoyed, you feel annoyed, or any urge to react, I want you to try and pause. And then I want you to ask, you don't have to say it out loud, in your head, am I about to react or am I about to respond? And then write it down. What triggered you? What did you feel? What did you ultimately do? And here's the real part. At least once per day, guys, you must consciously choose a different response than your default. One time a day. We're starting small. Not once this week, though. We're doing once per day because that's how you're going to build this. If you're comfortable, share it with me because I'd love to hear what you come up with. Obviously, I'll share mine in future episodes. Okay, we're back for another fashion tie-in. I told you, dude, we are going to talk about fashion because it is something that I am fascinated by. So let's bring this into presence. A man with emotional discipline moves differently. He's not loud. He's not reactive. He's certainly not chaotic. It's intentional. You move with intentionality. And that shows up in everything, even how you present yourself. You're clean, you're confident, you're controlled. That's about your identity. And it shows in everything that you wear. It shows in every step that you make. Masculinity is your presence. And when we talk about fashion with that, your clothes, the things that you decide are intentional. When you dress every morning or every time you go out, you do it with intent. Whether it makes you feel good, whether it makes others feel good around, I don't know what that intent is, but it's controlled. And that's how I want you to be with your emotional intelligence. It ties together. I loved the subject of this episode, and I want to tell you why this matters. As far as walk with me, it's about healing, right? The code is about building. Because men who control themselves don't create harm. They create stability, they create safety, and they create respect. And that changes the whole conversation. So the important tie-in here, as far as what this means to walk with me, is that the avenue that we're taking here in the code is to build a better future. Because being a survivor in domestic violence and sexual assault all started from somebody hurting another person. And that hurt that someone caused came from their inability to be emotionally regulated and to understand the type of harm that they're really causing. And so both of these avenues, they connect at some point, they intersect, because the more that we do as men to learn and to teach, the less time we have to spend understanding what survivors are going through, because there'll be less and less of them. This is never fully going to go away, but we can take action on what's happening now and the amount of hurt that is caused in the future. And I hope you're down to ride this journey with me. Let's bring this home. Gentlemen, today we broke this down in a real way. We talked about what emotional discipline actually is, not suppressing emotion, but controlling your response to it. We talked about why most men struggle with this, because we were never taught how to process emotion, only how to hide it. And then we broke down what this looks like in real life, how it shows up in our relationships, in our career, how it impacts our decisions, and how it ultimately shapes the man you become. And we gave a framework, simple, not easy, right? Awareness, catch it in real time, pause, create space, choose, respond with intention, and then execute, follow through with discipline. That's the work. That's the difference. Because you don't become powerful by controlling people. That narrative is so last year. It's so old. It's fucking dumb. You become powerful by controlling yourself because anyone can react. That's easy. Very few people can pause, and even fewer people can pause and still choose the right response. Here's what I want to leave you with today. Your life will always reflect the level of control you have over yourself, in your relationships, in your career, your reputation, your future, all of it. This isn't and will never be about being perfect. This is about becoming someone who is steady under pressure, intentional in action, and disciplined in moments that matter. That is real strength. That is real control. My friends, that's the code. Remember that progress is the point. Your life will always reflect the level of control you have over yourself. So build it every single day. My friends, until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the path. Hey y'all, thanks for walking with me today. If something in this episode resonated with you, you can find resources, support organizations, and additional information at walkwithmepod.com. Whether you're seeking help for yourself or someone you care about, those resources are there for you. You can also connect with me on social media. All of the links are in the show notes and on the website. I always welcome your reflections, questions, and stories. And with your permission, some may even help guide future episodes as this community continues to grow. If you believe in what we're building here, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It truly helps this message reach more people who may need it. And if someone came in mind while you were listening today, consider sharing this episode with them. Sometimes a single conversation can open the door to healing. Until next time, keep moving forward, one step at a time. Psst, this part is super important, my friends. I want to be very clear about something. I am not a licensed therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, or a medical professional. The content shared on Walk With Me is based on personal experience, research, education, and lived perspective, not professional or clinical advice. This podcast is intended for educational, reflective, and community-based conversation only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health care, medical treatment, legal advice, or crisis intervention. If you are in immediate danger, experiencing a crisis, or need professional support, please contact emergency services or a licensed mental health professional or a trusted support organization right away. Resources and hotlines are listed in the show notes and on walkwithmepod.com. Listening to or participating in this podcast does not establish my therapeutic, professional, or client relationship between you and I. My goal here is to open conversations, challenge harmful patterns, and offer insight and hope. But your safety, healing, and care deserve qualified, professional support when needed. Please take care of yourself